There's a big game this weekend, and the Houston Texans may be missing bodies, and why depth is very important for the Houston Texans Saturday primetime against the Colts. Winner takes all.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily Houston Texans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this Friday's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Pink Friday too? Locked On Texans.
No, this is not a Pink Friday too, but this will be a red battle. This will be a Texans Friday. Let's just put it like that. Thank you, guys. I'm your Texans football analyst, John, some sports guy, Hickman. And, of course, as always, on the other side, Texans Credential Media member, Sports Illustrated's own Cody Davis. We got to look at some Pro Bowl snubs. I know a lot of you guys were a little upset, rightfully so. If you're a fan of the team, you definitely want to see some of your guys get the acknowledgement they deserve. How much is the depth for the Houston Texans going to be an X factor coming up on Saturday? We kick off today's show with Week 18's injury report. However, before we do that, I want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Cody, let's dive right into it. John Grenard out. Noah Brown out. What's the injury report looking like for Saturday? And let's also talk about how those two players and whoever else is going to be out can impact the outcome of the game.
Yes, sir. So you already gave two other players who are quote-unquote questionable for Saturday's game against the Indianapolis Colts: Robert Woods, Will Anderson Jr., Andrew Beck, Malik Collins, Sheldon Rankins, and Laramie Tunsil. And as you guys know, Laramie Tunsil was the latest player to be added to this injury report when you compare it to last week, because he did leave Sunday's victory against the Tennessee Titans with that groin injury. But John, out of the 6 players who are currently questionable, I am expecting everybody that is questionable to suit up on Saturday. Not because it's, the biggest game of the season, the biggest game over the last 3 years, but because I had an opportunity to see majority, if not all of these guys, literally participate at practice. Yes, they were limited, but just to make sure that they are out there is a good indication that they're definitely going to try to give it a go, especially Will Anderson Jr. I actually saw him working out with trainers before the start of Thursday's practice, and, he did look good. Of course, he had that left ankle heavenly tape, and look, he played last week, Kurt. Everybody knows what's at stake as of right now. You win, you move on to the playoffs. You lose, you go home, and the 2023 season is over. But he wasn't the only one that had to battle through an injury last week. Sheldon Rankins, who had one of the most important plays, scooping up the fumble, that I think was somewhat caused by Will Anderson Jr. and the pressure that he created. But, Sheldon Rankins scooping up a fumble and scoring. We all know how important Sheldon Rankin has been to that defensive front, especially considering that stopping the run against Jonathan Taylor, a running back who is currently 5-0 against the Houston Texans as of right now. We know how important stopping the run is going to be on Saturday. You got to make sure that you have Sheldon Rankins out there as well. So, John, I think out of all of these players on the list, the only one that I'm not too worried about is Andrew Beck. Yes, he has played a very important role for the Houston Texans offense so far this season. However, I liked how the way they incorporated Brevin Jordan last week, playing around him with the tight end, but mostly more so as the fullback role. So I wouldn't be too mad if they tried to do that again. But I'm expecting a lot of these guys who are questionable. Once again, Robert Wood, Will Anderson, Andrew Beck, Malik Collins, Sheldon Rankins, and Laramie Tunsil. I'm expecting them to suit up on Saturday. So hopefully we get good news in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah, man. I'm also looking at the guys that we know will be out. John Grenard out. And you hate to see that. 12 and a half sacks on the year. All career highs for JG52. He's had a monster year. We'll talk about those Pro Bowl snubs at the end, right? And Noah Brown, he's going to be out. I think when you look at how this impacts Houston, they're going to come into this game with some hobbled players, like you just mentioned. What was those the names again for those questionable players?
The ones that's questionable: Robert Woods, Will Anderson Jr., Andrew Beck, Malik Collins, Sheldon Rankins, and Larry Tunsil.
So I think we'll see Sheldon. I think we'll see Will Anderson. I think we'll see Malik Collins. I think we'll see Larry Tunsil. And I think putting Tunsil out there is good because if all this fails, we got a guy that has been playing phenomenal football for Houston. And I think they may need to look at making a switch or moving George Fant back out there on the field. He played very good for Houston throughout the year. The last couple of games we've seen Charlie Heck featured. However, we did see George Fant step into the role for Larry Tunsil. He played phenomenal, I think, the last game. But I think first of all, JG52 out. We're going to look at more opportunities for Derek Barnett, who has been outstanding for Houston. At a sack and a half against the Titans. I read somewhere on Twitter that he has had more pressures since he signed with the Houston Texans than the Philadelphia Eagles or something like that. So he's been very valuable. Yeah, he's been very valuable for this
crazy stat.
And, we look at the Philadelphia Eagles defensive front. Shout out to my man Coop. Had to check me a little bit. Hey, Jordan Davis ain't doing much of nothing. But that front up in Philly ain't producing as we thought they would be to this point outside of Jalen Carter and his snaps. So we're going to need a big game from Derek Barnett. We're going to need a big game from Jerry Hughes. We're going to need an all-hands-on deck from the interior guys. They got to do their job of making that pocket very difficult up the middle for Gardner Minshew to operate in. But I'm also looking at the absence, of Noah Brown. The last 5 games, 128 yards, 28 targets. Not necessarily as productive as you want him to be, but I think that when you look at Houston and their limitations offensively, specifically from their receiving core, who can you look to step up? And realistically, nobody. Not from the receiving core standpoint. And I'd be shocked, and I would love to see a receiver step up, but we've had the conversation here on this show multiple times about John Mechie. He's gotten opportunities. He hasn't been productive in his opportunities. We talked about Xavier Hutchinson, who may get more snaps and opportunities this Saturday, but how unfair is it to put some pressure on guys, rookie guys, 6th-round draft picks, a player that set out a year in John Mechie? It's a lot of pressure on them for a team that's going to need their productivity from 2 guys that hasn't been productive all year for the most part. So I don't expect those 2 young dogs to step up. Robert Woods in the last 5 games, 21 targets, 140 yards. One of those games, -2 yards, 14 yards. His game always come every other game, it seems like. 40 yards here, -2, 30 yards, 14. Then the last game, 58. But will that be enough? So we're looking for him to step up. Will that be enough, Cody? But you said a name that I really did like, and that's BJ9, Brevin Jordan, man. A guy that I didn't even think was going to make the roster. Right? I like how Houston, and I got a text from John Crumple of the Texan Wires just saying, I think Brevin Jordan would be a better fit compared to Andrew Beck. But I think that if they can get him out in space, motion him like they did where he scored the 12-yard TD, move him in and out of the backfield, line him up out wide or in the slot, however you want to do it, give him an opportunity to, again, get out in space. He's still running 4.5. I think he's the guy you look to step up. Dalton Schultz is a guy that you expect to not necessarily step up, just play good football. Do what you need to do. And they have to make sure that they find ways to get him involved. But it's going to be the Nico Collins show at a receiver. A couple of other guys may get involved here and there, but I'm not expecting a dominating or surprising moment. I would love to see that, but I don't think it will. I don't think that'll happen.
I think if it does, you're definitely looking at a situation where the Houston Texans will definitely win. I'm not sure if we're going to get that dominating performance from Nico Collins because, like I mentioned a couple of days ago when we talked about Nico in the matchup against Indy, that was the first time that he had over 100 yards. I think he had like above 49 or somewhere along those lines.
He also has a shot to be the 3rd Texan receiver with 1,200 yards in the season. So shout out to Nico. I think he needs like 84, 85, 90 yards or something like that.
Hopefully he can, but John, really quick before moving on, and of course this is a topic that we definitely got to save. Hopefully we're not talking about it next week, but is it safe to kind of put Noah Brown in that same category with Jimmy Ward? Because both players, when healthy, it's always when healthy. Now they have had their moments, especially Noah Brown. I think Noah Brown moments definitely outweighs Jimmy Ward's.
I agree.
But at the same time, it's like every other week it was something going on, and he's another player that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is on a 1-year deal. So you're looking at a situation: do you let him walk and try to replace his services, or do you give him another 1-year prove-it deal? So that's just a topic for conversation that I just started thinking about when you started breaking down Noah Brown, and we're getting to the point of the show where we definitely got to start looking at a lot of these players on these 1-year deals and see whether or not it's worth it for them to bring them back.
Yeah, I like that conversation. I would go with yes. And Noah Brown, I think, is already on a 1-year deal. So for Houston, I think it comes down to, and of course, we're looking ahead, way ahead. But I think for Houston, it comes down to, we're going to keep a vet on this offense. Who's more valuable? They paid Robert Woods already, but I would go as far as to say that I think they just may need to cut bait with Robert Woods. I think him getting up in age too much, and the trajectory of whatever these seasons or he have left doesn't necessarily match what Houston needs right now. So maybe, but we'll talk into that. I do want to end off by saying that JG out hurts, and I think because they're going up against a better offensive line. And Noah Brown being out, regardless of how we feel, what other receiver do we trust for Houston right now outside of Nico? I trust Noah Brown more than I trust Robert Woods. And that's saying a lot. But if we are talking about trust, I got a brand that if you're a small business, you need to trust, and that is LinkedIn. This is the start of the new year. Every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network, of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many qualified candidates. So easy that, in fact, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and may not have the time to hire or resources. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free and roll with a brand you can trust. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. Cody, how much will depth play a role in Saturday's victory? Well, we just talked about the injury report, right? Whether or not Sheldon Rankins and Malik Collins play, they're going to be banged up a little bit. By the way, shout out to Sheldon Rankins. It's Monster Day Sunday. But I do think that Tier Tart is going to be important for Houston. I do think that Khalil Davis is going to be important for Houston. We actually had an opportunity to talk to Khalil Davis a little bit about how the process has been going. Talk to him after the game Sunday. So a little bit about that, but just how has the adjustment to being on this team been? Definitely want to give you guys an opportunity to listen to that. What were some of the things that went into the game plan throughout the week to help you and this defensive line be so successful against the run today?
Really, we just took the game plan and we just executed. Coach harped on just doing the job, be where you're supposed to be, and we would make the plays, set edges, and we would make the plays we needed to make. We didn't have to go out there and do anything special, just stick to the game plan.
From a personal standpoint, what's the element of your game that you see that has made this team so successful. Last year, they allowed teams to rush for 170 yards per game, well under 100 this year. You guys are one of the best run defenses in the league, and you've done a very good job to contributing to that. What's something that you personally have worked on that helped this D-line go?
Really, since day one, I just tried to take what they tell me, and I try to execute that the best way I can. And what I add to it is, even if I mess up, I take a bad step, I'm going to get to the ball no matter what. So you take a bad step or you try to reach me, I'm just going to beat you around the edge and just be relentless. I think that's what was really big about my game. I'm just relentless. I'm not going to stop. It don't matter if you beat me one play, I'm going to come back the next play and line it back up. So I think just my relentlessness and my grit. I'm going to go hard every play. And it don't matter how tired I am, I'm going to give you 100%. So.
From Tampa to the USFL, you've been bounced around a little bit. Do you feel like you found a home here in Houston that now has a very good defensive line, D-tackle rotation?
I feel like I found a home, man. They took me in since day one, and just really took me under their wing. The vets, Sheldon and Malik. I really don't have to do much. I just got to watch what they do, and I'm a really good, learning by what I see and how they play, and I can take that, add what they do to their game, and I think that's just what helps me. I can watch them every day.
Since you think you found a home, what has been your favorite place to eat since you've been in Houston?
It's funny you say that because I just found it this week. Me and my lady went Friday night. It's day night, so shout out.
Okay,
yeah, shout out. So we went. Yeah, so we went to a place called Potente. It's an Italian spot. Some of the best pasta, some of the best food we've had down here. Really nice if you want to take the lady out for a date night. Potente in downtown Houston. So,
okay, there it is. Well, Potente, if anybody at that podcast from that restaurant listen to the podcast, Khalil Davis of the Houston Texans just gave you guys a nice little shout out. But I do think that, to get back to the discussion, depth is going to be very important. They're going to need all of their best guys, right? And I think for Houston, there hasn't been an alpha. Well, I would say that Sheldon Rankins and Malik Collins are the alpha dogs for the D tackles, right? But I also think Khalil Davis, who I believe has 3 sacks on the year, he has contributed to not only being able to get after the quarterback, but a much improved run defense, which is going to be, very much needed Sunday with Jonathan Taylor coming back, going up against an offensive line that I think they're going to have a good battle, right? I also think that not only Khalil Davis, but I also mentioned Tart. I also want to give out some love to Kurt Heinrich. The guys that are the rotational pieces, some of the guys that could possibly get skipped over at times when you have the discussions on who's the most impactful player. Do I think that this team has I don't know how to put it, like when you look at the Washington Commanders before they blew everything up, you knew that their alpha dog, their top dog was Jonathan Allen, one of the best in the NFL. Do I think Houston has that? No, but I think Houston has 2 really good D tackles that have done a very good job throughout the year, especially once they got comfortable in their role, combining to be alpha dogs. But I also think Houston did a very good job in investing in their rotational defensive tackle depth piece. Also, on the other side of the ball, we don't know what the future is going to hold for Laramie Tunsil. Hopefully he plays. If he plays, again, I'm on record by saying I think that they need to look at putting George Fant out there. Fant is another guy that I had an opportunity to catch up with after Sunday's game. And I think that Fant is a guy that when you look at the depth offensively, the wide receiver depth is going to be important. Hopefully you can get something from them outside of Nico Collins. The running back depth, I think it is what it is at this point. There is no real depth at that position. A guy that you come in and you believe that they'll create impact, either because A, Damian Pierce just hasn't been effective as a runner, or B, they haven't found a way to get him going in the passing game, which is, I think, would have been his best shot this year due to his struggles to get involved offensively. But I had an opportunity to hear from George Fant. This is what he had to say. Been battling through injury. Came off the bench for Houston, did a very good job in relief for Laramie Tunsil. What were some of the things that helped you and the rest of the offensive line do a good job of protecting CJ his first game back?
Yeah, man, I think for me, man, me personally, that's been my whole career.
playing left, playing right, and honestly, that's what they brought me here to do. So just happy I can go out there and step in for LT, and then also, man, they do a really good job here of rotating guys in practice. So already used to playing next to Juice already, so it worked out well for us.
What was some of the things that Coach Bobby Slowick was, emphasizing going into this game throughout the week, in the game plan, to not only help CJ come back, but also do a very good job of running the ball? Because you guys did a very good job running the ball today.
Yeah, we just big on the details all week, man. We wanted to be really dialed in our details, playing a certain way, and I feel like we did that today.
Do you think you found a home here in Houston?
Man, hopefully, but that's not up to me. Me personally, I just want to go out here and show the world I was back to playing at the level of ball I can play at, and I feel like I've done it this year. So,
last question before I let you go: what's been the best thing about Houston's culture since you've got here?
Houston's culture,
city and team.
Yeah, man. For the city, the food, bro. The food, man. But for the team, man, just the bond that we all kind of grew in together. Everybody's fighting for each other, man. We don't want to let anybody down. So definitely a bond on this team that's been really close.
Favorite food spot?
Turkey leg hut.
Oh, there you go. If y'all don't know, I like to have a little fun, Cody.
Hey, man, really quick, I just want to say, you guys, I'm letting you know this now. When we start doing our position previews and we looking at guys who need to be back and who they should release and all this other stuff, I'm letting you know the top two guys at the top of my list is Davis and Fant. Both of those guys was really good, both on and off the field, and have played tremendous role in the success that this team has had, both on and off the field, man. Shout out to Khalil Davis and George Fant, man. I just had to say that, man. I love those two guys.
When you look at the how can depth be an X factor for Houston? Is there a position group that you think that, okay, if you guys can come together and play well all together, what position group will that be? And I'll just throw out and say the secondary. Kareem Jackson is, back in town. Amos, Houston Carson, Jalen Petrie, Desmond King, Derek Stingley, Stephen O. I think it would be the secondary for them to limit some of those big plays down the field, which is what helped Indy the first time. Is there a position group for you?
Yeah, the position group that I've been harping on this whole entire week, that's wide receiving core. I think this might be the first game that CJ will take the field without both Noah Brown and Tank Dell. And John, you said it best in the first segment. Outside of Nico Collins, I'm not sure if there's a receiver that I have faith in. And I just have a fear that they're going to put so much attention on Nico Collins. It's basically going to be one of them situations, do not let this one guy beat you. Because, look, Nico Collins has shown he can be your quote-unquote wide receiver number one. But at the same time, he was able to do that when you have to give attention to Tank Dell, when you have to give attention to Noah Brown. You exclude those two guys out, who's going to be the so-called decoy? Who's going to be the so-called wide receiver number two, or whatever the case might be? Robert Woods hasn't given you hardly anything since week one, in my opinion. I mean, yes, he has had minor moments, but it was nothing to say, you know what? I have a lot of faith in him with all these injuries. And then you have two guys, we've been calling on their numbers throughout the whole entire season. And like I said a couple of days ago, whether fair or unfair, we do not have a reason to have faith in either John Mechie, and that one still hurts, and Xavier Hutchinson. So this wide receiving core, whether it's Bobby Sloyd creating some kind of scheme or whatever the case might be, that is the one position group I'm looking at and saying, look, if they could come together and just give you something outside of the name Nico Collins, the Houston Texans will be in a very good position to win this game. But if not, I feel it's going to be an issue.
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. The holiday seasons, the season is over with. We got a new year. We know what it is. New year, new me. What are some of the things that you want to keep the same about yourself or your life in 2024? Where are you already crushing it? Think opposite of new year, new you. I think, let's move away from that. Around New Year's, we can get obsessed with how to change ourselves instead of just expanding on what we're already doing right. maybe you can finally organize one part of your space, or, there's a goal that you want to tackle. You can go ahead and tackle that one. Or maybe you're thinking about taking supplements every morning. Now you want to actually eat breakfast too. Therapy helps you find your strengths, what you're strong at, so you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make changes to your life that really sticks. If you're thinking about starting BetterHelp therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's done entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suitable to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. Switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to this Friday installment of Locked On Texans. Before we start talking about whether or not the Texans had quite a bit of Pro Bowl snubs, early on in the week, I did have an opportunity to catch up with Blake Cashman, just talking about the improvements this team has made over the past year and returning to Indy to play a very important game for the second time in 2 years. But of course, it's a complete 180 from the theme that they went into last year with.
This week, man, it's a big week for you guys. You was actually one of the players who went to Indy to close out the season last year. It was a bit of a crazy game, as you recall. How can you put into words just best the last 365 days? Because, as you know, for both teams actually, the last 365 days, that game is still meaningful, but in a completely different way.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. I mean, this game is very meaningful. We're playing to get into the playoffs, and we know that once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. It doesn't matter where you're seated.
Yeah.
But it's just really important for us to. I think, I'm a big believer not trying to make the moment bigger than it needs to be and just be yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like anytime players try to be, a hero, or they try to do other people's job, do extra things on the field, that's when mistakes happen. So I think CJ said it the other day, we just got to be ourselves and go out to Indy and play Houston Texans football, execute our game plan, and with the guys we have in this locker room, if we do that, I think we'll be in a good spot to win that football game as the fourth quarter comes to a close.
Yeah. I know you guys don't really pay attention to what the outside world might think, or national media, or whatever the case might be, but it's crazy because nobody expected this team to be in this situation except for you guys. I remember throughout OTAs, rookie minicamp, as CJ alluded to yesterday, throughout training camp, you guys always talked about how there was a special feeling with this group. And now, you guys are on the verge of making the postseason. Just overall, how are you guys able to just believe in each other so early, even before us had a chance to see, man, this group is something special?
I think the answer is we just have the right people, guys that are competitors, guys that want to win, have the heart and soul to put in the work that's demanded out of this game to be in the position we are. And I think as we've all started this journey, we quickly saw that in each other. And that's why from the get-go we believed each other, because we say, hey, like, the faces in this locker room is a special group. We all got that edge to ourselves, which will help us win football games and be a successful team. And at the end of the day, the outside world, everyone else, they don't see the relationships being formed in this building every day. They don't see the work that we put in every day. They just see the product on the field. We've been grinding since OTAs together, and and we did that together so we could go play this football game and win together.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Once again, that was Houston Texans linebacker Blake Cashman. Regardless of what take place on Saturday, man, this whole entire season has been special. John, it's just one of the moments where it's just hard to put in words how shocked and how stunned I've been at the improvement of this team within 1 year. Because this time last year, we don't want to win this game. We need the number 1 pick. And the Colts was like, we don't want to win this game. We try to get a top 5 pick. And it's like 365 days later, they're both playing for not just a shot at the playoffs, but regardless of what happens against Tennessee and Jacksonville, they could basically end up winning the division. So, man, it's just remarkable, man, especially considering a year later, the Houston Texans may have a handful of Pro Bowl snubs.
Derek Stingley, I thought should have been a Pro Bowler. John Grenard, I thought should have been a Pro Bowler. Everything else, I think they got right. You look at Shaq Mason, maybe you have a toss-up with that. I think that a lot of the inconsistencies with the offensive line really took away from what Shaq Mason was able to, do, and took away from the light that should have been shined on the job that he was doing.
Yeah.
So I can see that being a toss-up.
You don't think CJ should have been it?
So in the AFC, well, I thought CJ deserved it over Patrick Mahomes.
That's why I was going to, man.
Yeah. I thought that CJ deserved it over Patrick Mahomes. That might sound
crazy.
I thought that Derek Stingley deserved it over Jalen Ramsey.
That too. And look, I get it. I know in hindsight and all this other stuff, it sounds crazy. First and foremost, I think they definitely got it right with Lamar Jackson and Tua. Both of those guys have had phenomenal years. And if you ask me, Lamar Jackson should be MVP. And I think that's basically a done deal at this point. I understand it's Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City. They have been on a crazy run over the last, 3 to 4 years. But this year, Patrick Mahomes was not Patrick Mahomes, man. And when you take a look at how valuable CJ has been to this team and this turnaround, man, I think CJ should have been, without a shadow of a doubt, a Pro Bowler. But he is an alternate. As of right now, he is one of 6. Jonathan Grenard, Derek Stingley, Andrew Beck, CJ, Nico Collins, and Will Anderson Jr. All 6 of those guys are alternates. So pretty sure without a shadow of a doubt, I would say probably 2 of them will have their name attached to the Pro Bowls because, whoever makes the Super Bowl, people are going to start falling out. But at the end of the day, man, I think at least CJ, Derek Stingley, and John Grenard should have definitely had their names on the original ballot to begin with.
Yeah, Derek Stingley, 5 interceptions, tied for 2nd in the AFC, tied for 4th in the NFL.
Somebody made it. They don't even have not 1 interception.
Yeah, I think that was Budda Baker, the safety. Derek Stingley also allowed the 2nd lowest quarterback rating among cornerbacks who've seen at least 40 targets. I thought if there's any player on this team, offensively or defensively that should have made it, should have been Derek Stingley. Really Thank you, guys.
I think Derek, he is now went enough. Well, depending on what happens Saturday, if he goes Saturday without allowing a touchdown, this man has not allowed a touchdown in his career yet. I know they gave him credit for the one against Baltimore, but that wasn't his fault. So I put an asterisk on that. But other than that, he went his whole entire rookie season without allowing a touchdown. And if you exclude that 1 touchdown pass that wasn't on him, this man is basically lockdown corner.
I think that an all-pro is in Derek Stingley. If it's not this year, healthy is in the next year. Thank you for watching and listening to the Locked On Texans podcast. With this Friday's episode, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube. Take time out of your day. Give me a follow on Twitter at John_Hickman12.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, that's Cody, COTYDAVIS_24. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.